Morgan, Minister with Responsibility for Works. To my left, Honorable Floyd Green, Minister of Agriculture, Fisheries and Mining. We have the Honorable Colonel Charles Jr., Minister of Labor and Social Security. Yes, and to join us a little later, we'll have Honorable Dana Morris-Dixon, who is the Minister of Education, Skills, Youth and Information. So my name is Brittany Clark. I will be your moderator for this evening. But of course, as I mentioned, it's a call to action. So it's not just a catchphrase, it's not just a slogan or a slang. We are here to really discuss the issues that are important to our decision to choose Jamaica. We know it's an election year, so there is a decision coming up where we will have to choose Jamaica, and whatever that means to you, we will find out tonight based on the discussions and presentations of our leaders. So of course it's awesome to have the youth perspective here with us this evening, and I'll invite our guild president at this time to deliver. Your presence is important, so I'm asking everyone to just give yourselves a round of applause for being here this evening to be a part of this discussion. So we will introduce now our first presenter, Honorable Matthew Samuda, Minister with Responsibility for Water. He will be leading us off with the presentations. Yes, a big round of applause for him again. And of course, if you listen to the budget, we heard lots of investment, $10 billion to NWC, among other things relating to water.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening, colleague ministers, Mr. President-elect, of course, Madam Master of Ceremonies. It is indeed a pleasure to be here. I was reflecting with Professor Edwin Spence on the 2016 elections and how spirited that discourse was. I expect today to be no less spirited, and we look forward to the engagement. I want to also thank the organizers, especially Mr. Green, who have put quite a lot of energy into getting this through for us, because I think it is absolutely important that as we discuss with you what we mean by choosing Jamaica, that we come to you and allow it to be a two-way conversation so that you can interrogate the arguments and the plans that we have and truly understand what we mean by saying choose Jamaica and how we intend to do just that. Jamaica has been bedeviled by developmental challenges. Some of those challenges are of our own making. Some of those challenges have been based on geopolitical factors. The areas of responsibility that the Prime Minister has assigned to me include water, environment, and climate change. Although I will focus this evening on the issue of water as I was asked to speak, I think it's important to set particular context. The Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation was designed to be the primary engine of development for Jamaica, to kind of catch up on many of the issues that we've not paid appropriate attention to. So you have a large infrastructure portfolio. But something that's not widely understood, and I have noted periodic criticism on same, is the fact that the sustainability agenda is indeed within the same portfolio. But one has to understand that many of the issues that we face today and why we face particular problems is because philosophically, as the human race, we divorce the development agenda from the sustainability agenda, and that has led to many of the environmental challenges that we have. That has led to inequity in how we've developed, and that has led to several of the problems that we'll indeed discuss how we intend to fix. But we have approached it differently. We have said philosophically, it is impossible to develop an inclusive economy on the back of environmental degradation. And it is simply impossible to have prosperity steeped in pollution. It is why we have coupled the agenda and pursued it in a manner that focuses purely on sustainability. And this is not empty rhetoric, and it is not to be taken lightly. This sustainability agenda, I believe, on the environment and climate change meet very closely and very well and very seamlessly with the water subject area and even within the works portfolio, and I'll tell you why in a very short period. But this focus on sustainability in how we develop is evidenced by two decisions made very early in our term of government. The first was this government decided not to allow an investment in a coal plant which was slated by the previous administration for St. Elizabeth because it was not consistent with our sustainable development goals. Now that coal plant proposed producing over 1,000 megawatts of energy between 7 cents and 11 cents per kilowatt hour, which would have been significantly cheaper than the 42 cents per kilowatt hour that many entities in Jamaica pay for energy. But it was simply too dirty and not in line with our sustainable projections and plans for Jamaica. So this administration said, no, that's a very expensive investment in your future. The second decision we made was not to pursue the investment that was slated for Goat Islands, which was to be a logistics hub. And this administration has declared that area a nature reserve. We didn't accept the previous administration's view that Too Little Lizard was over there. We thought that that area of Jamaica was particularly important for protection. But a lot will be said around how we've developed and why we make particular decisions. I just want to make sure that 3 points are very clear to you. This administration has moved Jamaica's land protection from 13 to 25% of land must be protected. We are 5% away from the 30% global target that all countries have signed on to, meaning you'll protect 30% by 2030. And we expect to complete the protection of 30% of our land mass, a full 5 years ahead of target before the end of the calendar year for 2025. That is a major investment. The second thing that this administration has done is that it has literally, starting I think with Minister Pernell Charles when he was in this portfolio, revolutionized the policy framework that governs and manages, or rather leads how we manage the environmental portfolio. We have updated so many environmental policies. I think it would take all night, but just to highlight a very few of them. National Biosafety Policy, Emissions Policy Framework, Climate Change Policy Framework, Watersheds Policy, Forestry Policy, and I could go on, but this isn't the point of this discussion. On the other issue, which is very topical, which affects how you manage your water, just leaving environment, we've also updated our Watersheds Policy, which obviously is critical to sustainable water supply. Jamaica has taken a very serious and deliberate approach to its climate change portfolio, which is the third major environmental issue that I believe we've taken on front of. Jamaica was the 11th nation on earth to submit what's called its NDCs, its nationally determined contributions under this administration. Now that means this government, your government, said we're going to be a leader in climate action, not climate speeches, but climate action. And in doing so, we have said we will cut emissions by 2030 by 40%. That means you'll have cleaner air quality. That means all of the factors that affect environmental stability and biodiversity protection, etc., are indeed front and center in our policy framework. The other thing that we've done through our climate change focus is that we've developed what's called an LTS, your long-term strategy. So for those who say politicians only think in 4 and 5 year increments, Jamaica has completed its long-term strategy for climate change, which helps us plan and properly invest for 2050, where we expect that the world would have warmed by at least 1.5, even though by all indications that is likely to happen before. Now, the final thing that we've done just for tonight's discussion, I'm happy to discuss climate change and environment at length at any other time that you need me so to do, is we have developed a system that is called JSTRAT. It's the Jamaica Systemic Risk Assessment Tool. This tool uses a supercomputer. It was developed in partnership with a number of entities, including the University of Oxford, CCRI, GCF. This system literally ranks climate risk for all of Jamaica's infrastructure. Meaning, what happens in a Category 5 hurricane or what happens from slow onset events like sea level rise is not surprising to Jamaica. It means we have mapped which roads need to move, which piping systems will sink, saltwater intrusion, which water systems are at risk, which housing stock needs to be moved or needs to be upgraded, which part of your energy grid is at risk. We've taken a very deliberate, strategic look at the risk of climate change. And I can tell you as I segue into water that there is no area that is at greater risk than our water supply. Now, when one contemplates a risk that is so great and so grave to something as critical for our national stability and our national development, when you layer in that you have this beast of climate change, where you understand the particular challenge. We commissioned last year external help because the problems in the water sector, though not new, are that significant that we weren't shy to say we need some additional help. The World Bank has completed a full assessment of the water infrastructure needs in Jamaica to be water resilient by 2030. That requires a $5 billion investment. Now, as the Prime Minister has called it, it is indeed promising season. But I think it's important that you understand what the economy can promise, what we have done, because if you don't understand what has been done and what has been invested and what the fiscal space allows for investing further, then all sorts of things will be promised to every corner and crevice of Jamaica. In the last 5 years, Jamaica has invested just around 16 billion US dollars in, 16 billion Jamaican dollars into its potable water systems. This is an unprecedented investment. But for all of the math brains in the room, you know how far short of 5 billion US dollars that figure is. So even though that was approximately 3 times larger than any administration since 1988, relative to US dollars and inflation, it is still far too small to completely fix the issues that have bedeviled our water system when one contemplates all the varied issues that we have. But we are in a different space now. This year, you would have heard that for the first time, certainly since the 1980s, through the consolidated fund, the government will invest 10 billion Jamaican dollars into water systems in Jamaica in one single year, which is unprecedented. But what does this mean? What is it going to fix? Well, first, let us understand the numbers. Yes, we invested $16 billion, and yes, that made 150,000 people who had very unreliable water get reliable water. But that's simply not enough when we're trying to do it for 3 million people all at the same time and trying to fix systems that are age-old. This $10 billion commitment is not a single-year commitment. Over the next 5 years, through the National Water Commission, this government will invest over 50 billion Jamaican dollars in improving your water systems. And that's evidenced by the budget this year. So this is not to come, that is a set figure that we're working on with the Ministry of Finance. We'll also, over the next 5 years, be investing 8 billion Jamaican dollars through the Rural Water Supply Limited. We'll be investing $5 billion through the works that Minister Morgan is doing with the SPARK program to fix your roads so that we don't fix our road and have to dig it up after. And we'll also be working with JSIF in several small communities to invest approximately $4 billion. $67 billion. That's what the current economic space can provide. Now what that means is that the country can only invest currently at current economic size approximately 430 million US dollars within its own budget. You're going to hear $5 billion of promises from the other side, but the reality is the economic space that you have, though 3 to 5 times bigger than has ever been invested in any of our lifetimes, still some gaps. So the question is, what are those major gaps and how are we going to make up as much of it as is possible? Well, firstly, the first thing everybody says to me every time they're talking about water, they say storage. We agree. Everybody agrees. Jamaica has insufficient water storage. Over the next 5 years, the government intends to complete the project development phase for the expansion of the Mona Reservoir and for the Hermitage Reservoir, and will start the construction of the expanded Hermitage Reservoir and an expanded Mona Reservoir, which is absolutely critical. That's on the issue of storage, and persons will say, well, what of the rest of Jamaica? We intend to build 100 reservoirs across the center of the island over the next 5 years. Now these will range from 50,000 gallons to 500,000 gallons, and the budget can carry this. I wish I could do 200, but we have the fiscal space to go 100. That's on the issue of storage at the primary and secondary level. At the tertiary level, the government will ensure that all households that cannot afford a tank for tertiary storage at the household level have it. It is why the Prime Minister committed to distributing 50,000 black tanks to families in need over the next 3 years. And I think all MPs can concur that they've gotten the letter and they would have started distribution of some 150 tanks each in their own constituencies, which adds up to about 10,000 per constituency. So 10,000 nationally. So we've gone down the wicket on the first 10,000, something that we think is very important. Over the next 3 years, we'll hit the 50,000 mark. So that's the storage issue. But the next most critical issue, which isn't widely understood, is just the distribution network. The distribution network is aged, it is suffering from underinvestment. In many cases, even where not aged, the size of the pipes simply don't match the necessary carrying capacity for growth that you've experienced in several communities. Now, what does it mean to say the network is aged? What we currently experience in Jamaica, in most areas, is leakage between 60 and 70%. That's what you call NRW, non-revenue water. Now, we started a pilot in 2016 in the Kingston and St. Andrew area, and in 2019 in Portmore. We cut leaks in Kingston and St. Andrew from 72% to 37% in the works that we have done. That means that when you needed 55 million gallons of water in 2015, when no development was happening, you didn't have the high-rise building, you now need 37 million gallons of water in Kingston and St. Andrew, all the high-rises that have been built. So you need less water per day because we've been fixing the distribution system. So that is a major step in resilience. Now we are currently active in a procurement, an international procurement, looking for an international partner to work on NRW island-wide. Now, this will be a 10-year program, but we are way down the wicket. The World Bank is assisting us with this, and this is something that we believe will make a major difference. The next issue, which isn't, well, rather, before I move from that particular program, the Prime Minister would have announced that this year we will commence the relaying of a new transmission main from Martha Bray all the way to west end of Negril. This will add a level of water resilience which is absolutely critical for the stability and the growth and development for Western Jamaica. So you see, sometimes people who live in deep rural communities, they have the impression that people on the flat or people living along the coast have stable water supply. I think we have to acknowledge that everywhere in Jamaica has particular challenges, but we are investing to fix these. This transmission main will cost $200 million US and will take 3 years just about for total completion for that system. These are the types of investments that we're making, that you don't want someone who doesn't understand the water system, someone who didn't invest in the water system, to come and take charge of the water system at this critical stage. We have chosen to invest in water for Jamaica at an unprecedented rate. The third step is one which I certainly need young people in the university to understand. Because while I was at pains to explain the amount of money we have the ability to invest, is because there is a component that must include the private sector. And that component has to be brought to life through public-private partnerships. One such one that we have signed off on and has entered the construction phase is the Rio Cobre water treatment plant. That water treatment plant will require 92 million US dollars to be built. It will be complete in 20 months. But what does this mean for you? It means your tax dollars aren't going to build that water treatment plant because the private sector has put up the money. It means the water will be sold within the tariff that the NWC charges. So it doesn't add to the debt of Jamaica, it doesn't divert funds that can go to roads or can go to education or can bring down the cost of electricity. It is put up by the private sector and they earn within the tariffs that NWC already charges. Major, major investment. This project will supply 15 million gallons of Kingston and St. Andrew experienced its worst drought in history. We received 8% of our 30-year average rainfall, meaning none. And we were short 12 million gallons of water daily. This project that will not use your tax dollars, will not cause an increase in the water rate, will put 15 million gallons daily, and upon completion will mean that Kingston and St. Andrew and Portmore can claim water resilience for 2030. This project will be complete in 20 months. These projects will create a space for the government to continue investing at an unprecedented rate. But where we are going to need your support is with the understanding of why we have sequenced investments in the particular way that we have. Why we will work with the private sector in some versus others we will have to do through capital funds. Because ultimately we are way behind in our development journey as it relates to water distribution. And we have an elephant in the room, which is climate change, which is going to make it that much more difficult. Which is why we absolutely must continue to invest at even increasing rates. But I do ask you to contemplate the promises that will come within the fiscal space that we have, within the fact that it is this administration over the last 5 years that has fixed the issue for 150,000 people that were living either outside of the utility footprint or because of how poor their water supply was, they literally may as well have not been within the utility footprint. Now, there are job opportunities in water. Certainly, if you're studying the sciences, we do intend to work with you to put in water labs that will also be testing, not just for water quality, but testing of your water systems at an unprecedented level. So there will be job opportunities for those in the sciences. For anyone studying engineering or who has friends studying engineering, we're not short on need for engineers in the water sector. So for the young persons here, I know you're looking forward to hear from Minister Dixon in terms of how she will bring down your cost of education and how she will support you in that journey. But when you complete that journey, we will have jobs for those who are studying those particular areas within the water sector. Because ultimately we will deploy capital at a faster rate. We're going to need people to staff it. As such, I look forward to the discussion for the rest of the evening.
All right, thank you so much, Minister Samuda. I'll ask that you note your questions. We'll take the question and answer at the end of all the presentations. But of course, we heard this presentation talking about sustainability, merging and meeting the development agenda. We heard about the billions of dollars in investment to come, but what's already being invested, the $10 billion, along with what's to come over the next 5 years. Storage issues and the way in which the government will rectify those issues, expansion of the Mona and Hermitage storage units, also provision of tanks to residential households, among other things. And of course, what the young people are most interested in, the jobs. So jobs are available. I heard Minister say, no pressure, no pressure. So we'll get to her shortly to hear a little bit more about education. But there's work being done in the ministry under the leadership of Honorable Matthew Samuda. And again, he gave his presentation on his responsibility for water, but of course told us a little about environment and climate change. All right, so we move to our next presenter, Honorable Robert Nestor Morgan, Minister with Responsibility for Works, and you may present from your seat. We want to keep the branding in, so Yes, you can move it as well. Yes, whichever works for you. But ladies and gentlemen, welcome in as he makes his way to present.
My foot fell asleep up there. But anyway. You okay with that? Alright. But me a black card. Alright. So step 1. So step 2. Alright, hold on.
Can everybody say choose Jamaica? 1, 2, 3. Choose Jamaica.
Alright, so I fulfilled my contractual obligations. So now I'm going to what I would also ask you to talk about. Good evening, everyone. I know it's time, but that don't sound like energized. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Thank you very much. I country me come from, So I wouldn't don't respond, I tell you good evening. I want to salute the Guild President and his team, and all of you who have chosen, notice I said chosen, to come here this evening to engage on very important topics such as environment, water, climate change, topics such as education and youth information, topics such as agriculture and fisheries, topics such as labor and social security, and works. People hear works and they don't enumerate immediately what works is. It's roads, it's bridges, it's culverts, it's drains, it's a whole myriad of infrastructure. Now, the theme says securing our future. And I think young people in this room have 2 roles to play in that concept. One of securing it and inheriting it. So this generation that you see here, us young ministers, all under 50, all born, most of us, after 1975, 1980, we had the burden of correcting a lot of things that we came and saw. So let me give you an example. In 2014, the amount of money we spent on roads was $500 million. Who can guess how much we're spending 9 years later in 2024, which just gone? Anybody? Anybody want to make a quick guess? Well,
10 billion.
10 billion. That's close, but not so much yet. But we're reaching there. $8.7 billion was spent last year on roads. Why did the government have to spend 8.7? Why did they never get 3 billion to you so that you students and CFU students can go to school for free? Because most of the roads in Jamaica are at end of life. And we have a history in Jamaica of building things and not maintaining them. So this generation that you see here, in order for us to build, we have to start maintain, we have to start dig up and fix back the column and fix back this. Because for a long time, Jamaica never had the ability to maintain what it built. And it goes into a longer conversation about fiscal responsibility and debt to GDP. That's not my era. I am rubber hits the road, that's where I am. So when last year we decided to do a thing called reach patching, where we went all across the island and had to start patching the roads. It wasn't just because the roads needed patching. was because the roads were so old that when Beryl came and couple truck drive on the wet road, and then we had the most rainfall on average for 30 years, our roads were not built with resilience in mind, Matthew. They were not built to manage such weather events. Plus they were at end of life and they were not being maintained for a very long time. So not only did we have to spend $2 billion, $3 billion on patching, then we had to come again and spend another $2 billion on emergency patching. I'll give you an example. I drive on Grandspin Road often. And in September, you could drive on Grandspin Road. You could patrol here and there, but you can bob and weave and do your thing. By December, Grandspin Road was almost undrivable. Who remembers Grandspin Road? And within the space of 3 months, because of the rain and because of the age of the road, Grandspin Road almost could not be driven on. So we had to sheet it from all the way down to the gully, come all the way up to near the chicken shop. Now, the other side of it is not just repairing, because we've spent a lot of money repairing. We're patching the road every day. But repairing is not a sustainable developmental plan. We came up with a thing called Spark. But before I go to Spark, does anybody have any idea of how many kilometers of roads exist in Jamaica? Anybody guess who is not associated with the government? I'll give you lunch for tomorrow at your choice of restaurant. Who can guess? I did not know. I was shocked because the Prime Minister instructed us. 1, 2, going once, going twice, gone. The Prime Minister. Close, but no sesame. Now, Prime Minister instructed us, listen, we need to know how much kilometers of roads exist. So the Prime Minister engaged the Ministry of Economic Growth. What's the name of the unit again, Matthew? The National Spatial Data Management. These are the guys that go around with drone and computer and them things. You don't know much about it. And they went and they started measuring every road in Jamaica. Not just main road, but private road, Rada road. We found out that Jamaica has over 27,000 kilometers of roads. One of the highest road densities in the world. Not only that, but you have road that is controlled by NWA, which is my organization. You have another set of road controlled by RADA, which is Floyd. You have another set of road controlled by Parish Council. You have some road that are known as orphan road, where somebody built a housing scheme and never handed over the road to the parish council or the government, and every day the people in the housing scheme because and say, Jesus Christ, the MP don't want to fix the road, the council, they can't fix it because they don't belong to them. So we decided that we need to find out how much road in Jamaica and what is the condition, and then we're going to put the roads in a database so that people can go on the database and say, my road is slated to be fixed in 5 years. My road was fixed in 2003. It is now at end of life. That's a part of the whole ecosystem that brought us the Spark program, where for the first time, the government is spending $45 billion to fix community roads. Roads that have been neglected for many decades. We've gone about 12 already. We know we're going to be finished with about 70 by July. I know some of you drive on Richings Avenue and you see the quality that we do on Richings Avenue. There's Jasmine Close in Portmore. We're doing Orange Grove up at Long Lane and all across the island. Every community, every constituency will get 10 roads repaired. Another first is that we have never really asked people which road to fix. The politician or the councillor always get up and say, I think this road should be fixed. And then he goes to you and says, look, I give you a road. For the first time in our history, we had a formal process where we engaged the community in a consultation. And the roads under the Spark program are roads that the people chose. Not only that, but for the first time, we have a systematic program where when we're fixing the road, we're doing the drains, we're doing the sidewalks, we're doing the pipes, we're putting in internet ducts, we're putting in sewer. That has never happened before. But you ask yourself the question, why does that matter to me? It matters to you because in 10 years' time or 5 years' time, the money that I spent last year to patch roads, the government would have been able to invest it in your education. The money I spent last year in patching roads, because we would have built resilient roads that last, we could build more hospitals. We could give the police more motor vehicles. So there's an interconnectivity between everything that happens in government. Infrastructure is connected to climate change. It's connected to how our farmers do. If the roads are not good, the buyers are not coming to buy the goods. So the farmer makes less money, which means that his community stays low on the economic totem. Now, one of the issues that we have had in our country is the issue of accountability as it relates to infrastructure. When we started the REACH program and the SPARK program, everybody was like, oh, the contractor, they have to thief the money. Oh, them now patch the road good. So we instituted a zero tolerance approach to road repairs. If you fix the road and you leave the asphalt on the side of the road, you're not getting paid. If you fix the road and the road mash up, some of you would have seen up on the road a mark with like, me an engineer. It was to demonstrate to people that I am not above the accountability as well. I am here, a part of the accountability framework as the minister. So when the person fixing the road sees the minister out there, they know that this government is serious. As part of the accountability framework, we're now instituting a new program of assessing how our contractors perform. It's going now through the public procurement unit, where they are assessing the way to do it fairly and effectively. So within another year or so, you're going to have performance-based assessment of contracts, of contractors who do work in Jamaica. Another thing that we're planning to do is to include young people in the accountability mechanism. So one of the plans that the National Works Agency has come in September is to engage 20 young engineers as interns to work alongside these major projects. Work alongside the Spark project, work alongside the Bridge program that is coming, work alongside the patching program. So they can get hands-on experience before they leave university to understand how the real world of infrastructure development is done. Now, we will advertise it. Persons can apply to be a part of it. Because a big part of the challenge we have in Jamaica is that our young people are saying, where are the opportunities? But in many cases, it is not that there are not opportunities, but the young people are unaware. How many of you knew, and then I'm not stealing a shine, how many of you know that if you maintain a particular GPA, you can get a reduced interest rate as student loan? Put up your hands. How many people know that? You understand what I'm saying? So the reason why these things are important, these forums are important, is not just for me to talk and tell you everything that we're doing. but first to exchange ideas and information so you can become more empowered to make better decisions for yourself. So when the interns start, they are now going to be able to have exchanges with their colleagues within the education system. So they understand, not just from a theoretical perspective, how to build a bridge, how to design a road, how to design a game and basket, but they can bring real-world experiences back into the university environment and improve the educational outcomes of their colleagues. There are many other infrastructure developments that I would like to touch on, but I'm going to leave a lot of those for the question and answer segment. Other than to say to you, and this is personal, in 2002, I got up, and Nadine looking at me because she knows the story I'm about to tell. In 2002, I got up at 10 o'clock in the night, and I took a taxi down to the towers, and I stood downstairs in front of the building, waiting on the student loan bureau to open at 8:30 a.m. in the morning. Because in those days, many of us could not find the two guarantors to access student loans and had to wait until the last minute. And when you go down to student loan, there are probably 200 people waiting, so you have to reach there from the night before. If young people look at the transformation that has taken place in Jamaica over the last 15 years, it has been almost miraculous. We've gone from 2 guarantors to 0. We've gone from compound interest to reducing balance. We have gone from your face being published in the paper to negotiation of debt. When we say young people are important, it's not mouth talk. Because Prime Minister was in the paper as a debtor for student loan. He understands what it is like to be embarrassed in a community opening the paper and say, Jesus Christ, the promise of holiness son. So, a lot of the things that we do are not just about us self-aggrandizing. It's about using our experiences, my experience with a pothole in front of my yard in Woodard and my grandmother donkey getting lame, pushing me to become a part of G2K in 2001, and then ending up fixing potholes. You too can have an impact on your country. It doesn't have to be politics. But by offering your voice to the solutions, by choosing Jamaica first and foremost, we all in this room can make a difference. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much.
Thank you so much. We have more presentations, Minister, so we ask you to return the lectern. Thank you. But I was our Minister with responsibility for works, and I know many of us can relate to the stories he shared and the information shared, but we also hear of the plans within his ministry to repair sustainably, right, to hold the contractors accountable and the role that young people will play in that accountability framework. And I realized that the opportunities for engineers are vast, because we heard about opportunities earlier with water. We have any engineers in the room? Well, now it's a good time to think about a career in engineering or some sciences, because the opportunities are vast. But of course, we have many more opportunities. And at this time, I'll introduce our Minister with responsibility for education, skills, youth, and information. Honorable Dean. Oh, we're switching? We're switching? You're next? Oh, you're not? Oh, it's okay. No problem. All right, so we'll go to Minister of Agriculture, Fisheries, and Mining next, Honorable Floyd Green, and he will take us through the plans within his ministry and how young people can benefit from the opportunities available. And he'll be sharing a presentation, so we ask that you direct your attention to the screen.
All right, good evening, everybody. Good evening, everybody. Firstly, can we give the Mayor Sequel Hall a big round of applause, please? I want to thank Professor Spence for allowing us to host this right here at short notice. We truly appreciate it. And let me also thank the team who pulled it together. Can we give Sujay Boswell a big round of applause? After a number of people were behind the scenes to kind of get us here. I'm happy to be here. The time that I spent at the University of the West Indies, you would have the ministers of education, you would have maybe a minister of labor, maybe, you would have prime ministers, leaders of opposition, but you would never have the minister of agriculture. So we are changing that, because we understand that no matter what happens in life, no matter what station you are, no matter what you study, we all have to eat. And once you have to eat, then you have to thank a farm. So we should be sticking to 10 minutes. So I'll try to stick to my 10 minutes. Right? So that's why I try to put a presentation so that we can just try and go through. It's a lot to cover, but I'll try to stick to 10 minutes. I know that there are other ministers to come, and, you know, no more pressure on Dana because she's a minister of education. So I'm going to talk a little bit about agriculture. Why is it important? Some of the challenges, what the government is doing, how can you get involved, what areas should you get involved in, and what does the future hold? Because this is about choosing Jamaica, this is about securing our future, this is about ensuring that generations to come will have a better life. So, anybody knows how much agriculture contributes to our GDP? Question, 1%, 2%? How much? Agriculture contributes about 8% of our GDP. Agriculture is still the biggest employer of people. We have now about 260,000 registered farmers, and you all know in all the communities, if you come from rural, some people are not registered, but they are farmers. So we employ about 18% of those who are employed in Jamaica. But for a long time, to be honest, agriculture has had a lot of challenges. And for a long time, the sort of investment needed to move agriculture forward was not being made. And how much do you come from country? How much do you come from rural Jamaica? If you come from rural Jamaica, put up your hand. If you come from the best parish, put up your hand high. What parish is the best parish? Well, there's only one parish named Saint Bess. Alright, I'm not going to say Bass. But there was a lot of issues. We know the issues. One, there was a lot of investment, disinvestment, lack of investment in a number of areas, including irrigation. So the vast majority of our farmers plant and then pray that rainfall. And if rainfall in the well, if too much rainfall, it don't work out. If they're going to drought, we have a problem. And we know with climate change that Minister Samuda spoke about, we are seeing longer periods of drought, shorter periods of rain, more intense periods of rainfall. So what should have happened at least 5 decades ago is significant investment in irrigation so that farmers have access to water. We all know what has happened. When we plant seasonally, we have periods of glut, where you have a lot coming in. So just a while ago, you heard people talking about tomato, a lot of tomato, and when a lot comes in, what happens? Sends down the prices, and the farmers don't get a return on their investment, and then they complain, and then what happens? Everything's spoiled, then the prices go back up, because we're going to shortage and the consumers complain. So we've had that. Plus, almost all of you know that we've had significant challenges with farm roads. Most of our best farming land are in areas that are inaccessible. Nadine Spence come from one of those farming areas. beautiful, one of our pine growing belts, inaccessible. And then the long-standing challenge of Pradia and Lassie. So what we have done as a government is not to just talk, because to be honest, we are a nation of talkers. Politicians over the years give wonderful speeches. And I always say to all of you as young people, don't ask them what they're going to do. First, ask them what have they done. Because both political parties have had time at the wicket. How many runs did you put on the board? How many goals did you score when you were playing the football? That's where it starts from. Because we can say anything, but what have we done? We have put our money where our mouth is. When we came in, we used to see direct support to farmers through what we call the production incentive program. Used to be at about $200 million. In our last manifesto, this government said we're going to move that to $1 billion a year. Since we have said that, and we won in 2020, every year we have given $1 billion of direct support to our farmers. And this year, we're at $1.2 billion. That provides inputs like fertilizer, seeds, drip hoses, all of those things to help our farmers reduce their costs and to ensure they can be more profitable. Farm roads, again, from I was a boy growing up, we've heard about farm roads, fixed farm roads. When we came to government, when I looked at the record, over the last 4 years before we came to government, between 2012 and 2016, in total, about 24 farm roads were repaired. Last year, under this Ministry of Agriculture, we would have touched over 80 farm roads. Comprehensive repaired 51 and doing minor repairs to 30. Why we do minor repairs? Because at the end of the day, Minister Morgan said it, we have a history of rehabilitating roads and then we don't maintain them. So one of the changes I've made to the policy, 10% of our farm road budget goes to maintenance. And this year we have about, this year we have about $900 million that we're going to spend on farm roads. Irrigation, I started with that. We have spent over the last 6 years $10 billion on irrigation. But what does that mean in real terms? It means we're bringing new wells, new pipes in South St. Elizabeth, South Manchester, Clarendon, St. Catherine. Any of you who come from that side when you're driving out of town and you look to the right on the highway and you see a big reservoir, it is now filled with water, that is an agricultural project. That is going to be an agri-park. And we're putting $5 million of water in that reservoir that we're going to use to serve the farmers in that area. $10 billion we're spending. And that is what we have already spent. We're spending $2 billion this year. But we're breaking ground for the biggest irrigation project, the Puget Plains irrigation project, where over the next 5 years, we will spend about $30 billion bringing water to parts of South St. Elizabeth who already have great farmers, but they don't have irrigation water support. The other thing, we don't talk a lot in agriculture about research. And if we say the climate has changed, if we say things are different now, then we have to do the research to drive the development to ensure that we are more productive. So, again, there was a time that borders was the hallmark of research. Nowadays, it had fallen into disrepair, but we've been spending to bring it back. Over the last few years, $1.2 billion. We have a project now, $6 billion to build our research stations. So in every area, cold storage, I spoke about gluts and shortage. The way to fix that is to ensure when you have the glut, you store it. Extend the shelf life. We're spending $1 million on that now. We broke ground in Kirkvine. We will finish that one in about June. We have one that will hold about 20 containers in Essex Valley. These are not things to come. These are things that are happening right now as we speak. And the difference also is that we've learned from the mistakes of the past. So it don't make sense to set up the cold storage and then you don't have the money to pay for the electricity to run the cold storage. So all of our cold storage now comes with renewable energy to ensure
that we can reduce the cost of operating those facilities. But we know that the future of agriculture is about you. And that is why I'm here. Because whatever field of endeavor you are in, we want you to think about agriculture. A lot of you, all of you have come from rural, some of your family have some land, you're not doing anything with it. By the time we're finished here today, I want you to start formulating a plan of how you're going to make real wealth. We are the money ministry. How you're going to make real wealth from agriculture and fisheries. So we have the REAP, Rural Youth Empowerment Program. If you want training, let us say you don't know anything about agriculture. We have something called the REAP Starter, run by the 4-H, and our chairman is here, where you can go in, we train in whatever. You want to do yam, you want to do poultry, you want to do apiculture, we train you free, certify you, give you a grant at the end to start your business. Let's say you already have some chickens, or your mother already has some chickens and you want to take over. We have something called the Rebuilder Program. Again, we can train you and then give you a grant of about 100,000, and we just put in place our very first agribusiness pitch competition. So if you're in the Rebuilder Program, you can pitch to a panel of judges, and we will give you $1 million if you're the top one, so that you can invest that in your business. This is the first year we did it, and it went so well that originally I had said $1 million to the business. I ended up having to give third place because I didn't feel bad. So I give third place 250,000, and then we have to give second place. So we give second place 500,000, and then when we finished, we realized that we had a tie for first place. 2 young female entrepreneurs, one in apiculture, one is doing potato and derivatives of potato. So we gave both of them $1 million towards their business, so that they can really enhance their agricultural enterprise. One of the things that you may not know, by virtue of our policy, when I came to the ministry, I said, we can't just talk about youth. Let's put some policies in place. We started with 20% of every land that we have should be reserved for young people. Young people, women, and persons with disability. That went so well that we said for our new agri-parks, 25% of that land will be reserved for youth. So if you don't have access to land, talk to us. And when I speak in my sectorial, we're going to be talking a little bit more about how we're going to make that accessible. So I know my time is running out. But again, we have what we call the new face of food. That is our strategic priority. We focus on food security, agribusiness development, climate smart technology, and export expansion. So under that, there are some priority crops that we provide direct support for. If you want to make some money, not now, but let us say you want to ensure when you finish university, you can sit down on some good money. You know what you really should be doing now? Planting ackee. What you should be doing? What should you be doing? Or planting mango, or planting breadfruit. You know how much money we make a year from the exploitation of ackee? Just give me a guess. 1 million, 2 million? How much money we make from the exploitation of ackee? 8 million? We make about 30 million United States dollars from the exploitation of ackee. Anybody know what's our #1 export? Agriculture base? Somebody say mango, no. Somebody say what? Yam, how much money we make from the exploitation of yam? Yes. We make about 43 million United States dollars from the exploitation of yam. Sat in a meeting with a yam exporter, he said he made $21 million the year gone. And somebody said, oh, that's really good. So 21 million Jamaican, the man said, I don't speak in Jamaica. 21 million United States dollars from the exportation. So there is money out there to be made. I'm not telling you that agriculture is easy work. Agriculture is challenging. And we do have issues like perennial larceny. But we have been moving to treating some of those issues. If you don't know, we have amended the act to provide stiffer penalties for those who are caught in acts related to perennial larceny. When we came in, we found it at 250,000 maximum fine. It is now 3 million. We found imprisonment maximum 6 months, it's now 3 years. And we're starting to put more boots on the ground. If you don't know, the police now have an agricultural protection division that is mobilized to support our farmers in relation to agriculture. I can't speak about fisheries, so ask me about fisheries. Ask me what we're doing for fisheries when the question and answer start, so that I can tell you what we're doing about fisheries. Our focus as we move forward to ensure that we secure our future is one, to put more financing options for youth to get involved in agriculture. I know all of our young people have good ideas, but you're looking for financing. We're going to pair you with the financing options. Clearly, part of our drive is to reduce importation, so we have priority crops around that. Ask me how we can get involved in our small ruminant sector. We import a lot of goat meat. It's not even goat meat. We import about $3 billion in what you eat as curry goat. We want to fix that. So get involved in our small ruminant sector. So we will talk more about that. And finally, I will end by thanking your King President. Thank you, your President-elect, a big round of applause. I'm very impressed by him. I saw parts of his speech, and he really looked like he was in the spirit when he was trying to get the vote. But I'm also impressed because he quickly said yes, he would participate. I think as young people, we often shy away from anything that looks like political activity. And I went down that path where I said I don't want anything to do with politics. Too corrupt, not gonna make no sense, not gonna change. But I always voted, right? And when the Labour Party lost in 2011, and I thought they were doing a very good job in very difficult circumstances, I thought to myself, did I do enough? I mean, I voted, but did I convince my friends? Was I just lackadaisical about it? Did I really care if they won or lost? And that is when I decided I would get deep involved in politics. Because regardless, somebody's going to make a decision for you. Somebody is going to vote. And if the people who are voting, their priorities are not agriculture, fisheries, development, education, tertiary education, then the government of the day will align themselves with the priorities of the people who vote. So I'm saying to you as young people, don't shy away from politics. Use the politics to create the Jamaica that you want to see. Choose Jamaica and let us secure a better future. God bless you.
Thank you so much, Minister Green, Minister of Agriculture, Fisheries and Mining. So save your questions, people. Remember, we have the question and answer segment coming up, but we hear of the work being done. As you mentioned, you know, it's action, not a matter of talk, not so much promises, but progress coming out of the ministry. And it's good to see the interconnectedness between the different ministries and how each affects the other and how consideration is being made for the work being done. So for example, the reservation of parts of the budget towards maintenance. And as we heard earlier that, you know, not all the roads are owned by a particular entity, but there's progress being made to ensure that work is being done. There's opportunities for youth, the Reap Up Startup program, the Build Up program, training grants. Yeah, I'm excited about agriculture. I'm going to consider that yam farm, something like that. Yeah, I don't know if I can work in it, but I can hire some people to help me out. But definitely opportunities there in the ministry and in agriculture for youth. Remember, it's 8% of the country's GDP. It might sound small, but that's a significant figure. All right, so we move now to hear from Minister, the Honorable Colonel Charles Jr., Minister of Labor and Social Security, again to hear a little bit more about the policies in place, opportunities for youth, and the work being done within his ministry. Please welcome him as he makes his way.
Thank you, Brittany. Let me first acknowledge all of the ministers who are here, of course. President-elect, congratulations and commiserations at the same time. Professor Spencer, I don't know if he knows that he's getting himself into it. Professor Spencer. I haven't been inside Mary Seacold Hall so early. Thank you for this opportunity. What is wrong with all of you? Let's get to this. Let's get to... Thank you, Colin Virgo. I want to acknowledge my permanent secretary who is here as well. Youthful. I'm here to talk about jobs and social security. And I know that if you're at university, what it means is that you're here to transition to the working world, either to be employed or to employ. And if you're not going to employ or be employed, what it means is you want to have that capacity. Okay, and I say that because I was in a conversation with a young lady last week who said to me, she's completing her master's so she can find a husband. However, she's hold on. She's finding the husband, but she's keeping the masters in case it doesn't work out. Amen? Yes, amen. So it's important no matter which one of the pathways you're choosing. Amen? Yes. So at the Ministry of Labor and Social Security, we consider ourselves the people's ministry, where no one is left behind, and we focus on the most vulnerable. And many of the most vulnerable happen to be students. And sometimes you don't know they're vulnerable, but we know. Because many of our students here, even at the university, are on path and are in need of that support. And we provide that support through scholarships, through grants, through job readiness training, through internships, through many different types of work experience. And I am so proud to be a part of the Andrew Holness government. I'll tell you why. As my brother said a while ago, I've been here at UWI. I served on the Guild here. And I have never seen an opportunity presented to students to pepper 5 ministers with questions at the same time. So use it wisely. And understand that this is a representation of the open communication your government wants to have with you. We're here not just to inform you, but to hear from you and to make sure that whatever we're doing is aligned to your future. When it comes on to labor, we can proudly say that we live in a Jamaica where we have seen unemployment rates drop to historical lows. Yes, you can clap for that. It was 3.5, I think it's now 3.4%. And while unemployment is going down, the minimum wage is going up. And while the minimum wage is going up, the opportunities for those who want to be employed in terms of training opportunities with her, training opportunities and work experience opportunities with the Ministry of Labor and Social Security, all of those have gone up. There was a time when if you wanted to gain a skill, you had to pay for it. Now, the government is literally paying you to get into that opportunity for your own betterment. And so, why are we doing this? It's not just because, the government is looking some votes. Not to say that we're not looking votes, we are. And we should. But the government cares. And we're securing our future. Because our future depends on the youth. It depends on having a labor force that is productive and resilient and strong. And that is why we have taken the time and invested in a stronger labor force with hundreds of fairs and career workshops and work experience training. And we're going to continue to do so. In 2016, when we look on the statistics, what we see is that unemployment was above 14%, double digits. And of that, youth unemployment was 36%. So the youth made up the largest portion of persons who were not either working or getting work. And over the 10-year period, your government has been able to move from 14.2 down to 3.4, 3.5%. We've been able to move youth unemployment also significantly down. almost at 12% now. And there's more work to be done, but how do we intend to approach it? So we approach it by creating partnerships. When your president-elect, who was then representing Chancellor Hall, came to the ministry, he said to us, we want to find a way to partner with the Ministry of Labor and Social Security to provide opportunities for the youth at UWI. And we discussed, many of the youth who have path, who are on path, we discussed ways to provide them with information so they know how to access the grants, because many of the youth who are here, who are on path, don't know that they can access tertiary grants, $200,000, $300,000. We also have other opportunities for students who are not on path to get support through our rehabilitation program, through our education and entrepreneurship grants. And many of you, I'm sure, don't have that information. So we are going to be partnering with your guild to make sure that in collaboration also with the Ministry of Education, Youth Skills and Information, that we provide workshops that will have one-on-one engagement with the youth here at UWI, so you can know how to access the support that is there. One of the worst things that can happen is that exam time coming around and you try to access your timetable and you realize that you can't access it because the money that was to be paid never hit the account. And so you call Professor Spencer and say, well, you know, anybody, anywhere that we can get support? So we don't want you to reach that stage. What we want you to do is to be informed so that you can know what you can do before you're in that situation. But if you do get to that situation, we have support for some, particularly for those who are on the PATH program, in terms of grants and scholarship opportunities. Now let me move quickly ahead. You know, the future of work is exciting. It's moving at a pace that is almost unreasonable. If you think about it, many of you now have ChatGPT or Copilot on your phone, am I correct? Yes. ChatGPT came in just a year or two. Artificial intelligence is changing the entire landscape of what will be the new era of jobs in Jamaica. So we are doing the assessments at the Ministry of Labor to make sure that we are preparing, not just the curriculum, but preparing our country for this new era of work. I was speaking recently at the Organization Development Conference on the need for artificial intelligence fluency and how we're going to connect artificial intelligence with emotional intelligence to make sure that we create that stronger labor force. And it must start here. It must start in the schools from early childhood coming up into the tertiary institutions. We want to make sure that at the ministry that we're providing the information and the guidance. And so again, I reach out to the Guild of Students in terms of the partnership that will be required for us to prepare you for the new era of work. Many students right now are coming to classes in the day. When they leave UWI, they're either going to your dorm or to your house if you're off campus, and you are starting your work online. And many students have told me that they're making more. Some of them on TikTok, some of them trading, whether it is stocks or buying something on Alibaba and selling it on Amazon. Many students are doing very well working in the platform economy. The question we have is, how do we now protect you? How do we connect that to the laws and the regulations to make sure that as we evolve, we're providing that enabling environment so you can have that flexi work arrangement to go to university, to teach at a high school and still own your online business. That's the new era. So in 2024, we had to take a step back and look on how we are gathering information in labor. And the labor force survey, we made some changes to make sure that even how we're looking on what the labor force is, that it would practically now involve persons who were not just able to work, but actively seeking work. So we don't really compare the 2024 numbers to anything before it, because it's a new computation. But what we found in this first quarter for 2025 is that the labor force in Jamaica is becoming strong. And those are good, positive indicators for competitiveness. Because we are not competing anymore regionally. When you go onto TikTok, many of you, they say, your side of TikTok is not even Jamaican things you see. Because many of you are connected more to all these other countries. And so even in the working world, there are Jamaicans who are right here working online in Dubai. You have Jamaicans that are developing business that is primarily operating in other jurisdictions. These are the things that we are investigating at the Ministry of Labour right now. We are stuck on our future destination. We want you to choose Jamaica. And by choosing Jamaica, you have to choose yourself. Choosing yourself, it means you have to think about what is going to provide you with the opportunity to be better, to do better, to have more. That means you have to look on the management and the leadership that you've seen the last decade. Some of you who would have turned 18 perhaps in 2016 only know a JLP government. You only know no new taxes. You don't know what it means to wake up and hear that the finance minister is going to read a budget and you're shaking in your boots because you know that if you are about to start a company, you have to worry about the taxes that are coming, and taxes will be coming. You don't know what happened before. So I want to just encourage you. Inform yourself. If you don't inform yourself, the decisions you make will not be contextual. There won't be decisions that take into consideration where you can go back to. And we have gone so far ahead with this country that when you look on water, works, agriculture, education, labor, we are all combined in moving Jamaica in a positive direction. When I was at UA, I remember not so long ago that UA used to be the place, UA Mona at least, used to be the place where you learned not only leadership, but how to put on a good protest. Eh? And a lot of the things that we were protesting about then, I have lived to see that the government has been able to satisfy the need of those students. You heard all of it in terms of student loans, guarantors, support. It is not just by chance or coincidence. It is a very deliberate, strategic approach to ensuring that every single student that wants to improve their life has that opportunity to improve their life. So I say to you, as I wind down, if you are interested in either becoming an entrepreneur, if you're interested in working in a particular government agency or even in the private sector, do not wait. Utilize the opportunity of your student status. When you are a student, you are not seen as much as a competitor. And this is the opportunity for you to get out. You don't have to know the person. Pick up your pen and paper, go onto your email, send an email and ask for an internship. I promise you that you may receive more positive responses than you believe. And at the Ministry of Labour and Social Security, we want to welcome you who want the opportunity to gain work experience. We want to encourage you to do so now, Because one of the primary things we hear from employers is that when you come out of university, you may have the top-notch degree, bachelor's, master's, doctorate, double doctorate, but you haven't worked one day in your life. And there's nothing that's more important right now than having the experience and the right attitude. Do you understand me? So you don't want to fall into those traps. And that is why we are creating as many opportunities as possible for you to be able to stretch out, spread your wings, get as much work experience and internship opportunities as possible. There are several ministries, not just the Ministry of Labor, that provide internship opportunities. The Ministry of Local Government, not to mention, and I'll leave it to Dana to go through the 100 opportunities that she has at the Ministry of Education. But you have a number of opportunities that are here, that are there for you, from the Ministry of Tourism, TPDCO, on and on and on. Last thing I'll say is this. Social Security. Those students who are here, who are in vulnerable situations. Some of you don't want to tell your roommate, you don't want to talk about the reality that you're facing. There is help. The government cares. We're not leaving you on your own. And we are going to be working with your guild to make sure we provide the opportunity. But I want you who are here to spread the word. The worst thing we can do is come and set up a tent to provide the information, and the persons who need that support don't turn up. You need to be the ones to spread the word. Don't wait. There is a website called the Offices of the Service Commission website that provides several of the vacancies in government. So if you're a master's student or a bachelor student and you're able to gain some employment, don't wait. Go and check for the vacancies right now. In my ministry, we are about to hire about 200 social workers. Very soon. And many of you, I'm sure, are either in that program or know persons in that program. I want to encourage you, as many have been doing, to start to send your resumes, update them early, and get them to us, because we are compiling that information, so when we are ready, we just get going and press gas and get those persons into the ministry. Yes? All right. So, Social Security is not just PATH, it's about persons with disability. I don't have the time to go into all of that, but I just want to say to you, whatever area it is, from PATH, persons with disabilities, social intervention program, we want to welcome you at the Ministry of Labor and Social Security to come and get some support. Please do not sit down and say to yourself, nothing not going on. It is a travesty when I hear that. A travesty in 2025 when I know homeless provide the most opportunity. But I wish that I was in university when this man was Prime Minister. Because there is a lot going on for Jamaica, a lot going on for you. Choose Jamaica, choose yourself, choose a better government. One love.
Thank you so much, Minister Charles Jr., Minister of Labor and Social Security, the People's Ministry. So, of course, you heard of the plans there, the partnership with the Guild, of course, commendations to your Guild President-elect, and, of course, the opportunities for students to get access to workshops, internships, support for students on paths with grants and scholarships, the new era of the labor force and the work being done to investigate that and to see what kinds of jobs are emerging in the new age of the labor force, and what kinds of, well, the persons who are seeking work as well, which is a new addition to that labor survey. And of course, the fact that Jamaica is not just competing locally, but we are competing internationally. And I tell you that Jamaican workers are also in high demand because we are great workers. So a lot of people actually are willing to hire us, but you know, we want to keep some of us at home. So of course, we want to ensure opportunities are here where you're getting paid, you're getting gainful employment, building your skills, and of course, giving back to Jamaica. So thank you for your presentation. So we've heard from Works, we've heard from Water, we've heard from Agriculture, and of course Labor and Social Security. And now we round things off with Education, Skills, Youth, and Information. So please join me in welcoming our Honourable Minister Dana Morris-Dixon. As she makes her way, I know the other ministers have been teasing a bit of her presentation, and she's up here saying no pressure, no pressure. But we know she has it all together. She has lots of information to share, and I know our students will be looking forward to it. All right.
Thank you very much, Madam MC. You've been doing a fantastic job. I have to acknowledge my cabinet colleagues, the young members of the cabinet, and we actually all like each other. We get along very well. And we're very supportive of each other. And I have to say a special thank you to Minister Green for organizing and taking the lead in organizing this. I have to say congratulations to the President-elect. I am so happy that you're in this position. And I should let you know you have another job. You're an informal advisor to me in that role. You're going to have to come to me and tell me what young people want. Because I need to know, I have to acknowledge, Prof, everybody's saying Prof, we are going to give you the promotion. Prof Davy Specs, thank you so much, as always, for allowing us to be here. And of course, our students who are here, I have to say a wonderful good evening to all of you. So I used to come over to Seacole. I never lived on campus. But I used to come over here to eat in the dining hall. But I only came once or twice a week because I couldn't afford to come every day. So I would come over here and have lunch on the evenings that I had a long day. And so it's really nice to be back here and to reminisce about my time here at UE. And nothing has changed. The pui trees and the poinciana trees always act up my allergies, and here we go again. So every exam period, I was in the exam room with all of my tissues sneezing away. But it's really good to be here, and I'm going to just go straight into it without all of the formalities, because I really only have 10 minutes. You have to ask me questions so I can talk some more. Are any of you having any difficulties in paying your final bit of fees? And I know many of you are. Just to note, if you go on our Ministry of Education website, there is a section on grants for persons who are having difficulty and need financial assistance. Please go there and apply. It is for those, now obviously if you owe the whole school fee, that's not for you. But if there is a portion, a small portion that's still owing, you can go on that website and you can apply for a grant, financial assistance grant. So please do it. Tell your friends that this is there. In addition to that, we have a program called JAMVAT, and you can find that on our website. The take-up hasn't been so good, so President-elect, you and I are going to have to figure out how we fix this, because that program will give you 1/3 of your tuition just by doing some community service. And so we need to figure out how we work that through, because that's a lot of money being given away. It's not a loan. We're just giving it to you to do community service. And so that's one that we want to revitalize and have more students doing it. And you can get up to $300,000 under the JAMVAT program. So that's another one. We also have lots of scholarships for persons who are engaged in engineering and also teaching, especially those who teach science and maths. So for any of you with friends who may be thinking about teaching, this is an area you can get a full scholarship. All of your tuition paid. And then there is also in the teaching area, especially for science and maths, there are scholarships, full scholarships, again. Also, in terms of our employment over the summer, there are many summer youth employment programs that are there. Through HEART, which I have responsibility for, there are thousands of opportunities there over the summer. Please make use of it. We also have the Ministry of Labor, as you heard from Minister Charles. You also have these internships from the Ministry of Local Government and Community Development. There are tons of them. I launched the summer program 2 years ago. It is a big program. program. A lot of young people get work through it. In addition to that, I just wanted to note what the government is doing and something else that your president-elect is going to have to help me with, which is figuring out how we deploy government funds the best we can. And so, we give UWI $12 billion a year. That's what's allocated, but it tends to be more than that because UWI usually come back and say we need more because we need to pay the teacher, the professors and so on. But $12 billion is allocated to UWI. We allocate $3.6 billion to UTech. And we allocate $1.2 billion to CMU. That's a lot of money that is being allocated. And so it is important that we understand how that money is benefiting you, the students. And you have to be asking those questions. And of course, a university education is expensive. It's hard to run a university. It's expensive to run a university. But the key thing for me, when we're looking at these allocations, and I'm talking to Minister Williams about the allocation to our tertiary institutions, we need to be getting bang for our buck. As a country, whenever we spend on anything, it's an investment. We have to ask ourselves, what's the return on that investment? Are we getting the returns? Because that $12 billion could have gone for roads, and I'm sure that Minister would take it. But we've said, no, this is going to UWI. And so it's very important that we work through how, as a country, and also as a region, we benefit from the spend that we do in tertiary education. So when they say that they're not getting anything from government, remind them it's $12 billion government gives. $12 billion to UWI alone. And it's a lot of other money. We also give money to our teachers' colleges, our polytechnics, all of them. And also community colleges get money from government. So it's a lot of money. It's over $20 billion that we're spending on tertiary education in Jamaica. Since I'm here and I have you, and you're all young, and you know other young people, I'm going to talk also about what's happening at Heart. Because many of you have cousins or brothers or sisters who may not have matriculated into tertiary studies like you have, and are thinking about where are they going to go, what is the future for them. And I always say, choose Heart. Heart is a wonderful place for young people. Our Prime Minister, Dr. the Most Honorable Andrew Holness, made tuition fees at Heart free. Free, free, free for everybody. And that's a big deal. It's a big deal. Because when you look at all of the data about where the world is going, skills training is critical. And so to make a bold move like that meant that we as a government, and our Prime Minister in particular, was committed to the young people of Jamaica. Because we know a lot of our young people go through high school and they're traumatized from what's going on in their community. They don't have a lot of money. They don't have parental or community support. They may not have had any CXCs, but they still want to make something of their lives. And that's why we decided to make Heart free. And so you need to tell all of your young friends that it's free. So in addition to just it being free, we also are starting some new initiatives. So we have a cultural apprenticeship program. Jamaica is known for its culture, but we never had anything really where we had a structured program to have young people in the creative industries. And so we've decided to do that this year. And so we're going to have 200 young people through Heart participate in an apprenticeship program for the creative industries. And that means you'll be placed into a business, either local or international, with international creatives, and you will earn a monthly stipend. And so that's another way we're innovating. We also realize that STEM is important. And I urge all of you here to look at what are the jobs of the future. And the world is changing right before our eyes. And the jobs of today are not the jobs of the future. And so you may be studying right now and spending all that money that you don't have and your family don't have to go into an area that is dying. So you have a responsibility to understand where the world is going. And STEM and STEM-related areas, the robotics areas, the AI-related areas, all these are in demand. And so I want you to know that HEART is open to you tertiary graduates. One of the things I'm happy about is when I see people from my former life. I was in banking and finance. And they'll tell me that they're going to HEART in the evenings. These are people in their nice job with their nice suit and their high heel shoes going to HEART. Why? Because they understand there is money in skills. And so if you have your nice big degree, you also want to make money. And so we have agriculture programs. You heard Minister Green talking about the money that there is in agriculture. HEART has programs in agriculture that can teach you to make the big money that Minister Green was just talking about. So don't think of HEART as just a place for those who didn't do as well as you did. It's an opportunity for them, yes, but it's also an opportunity for you too to make the big money. So let's destigmatize HEART. HEART has robotics. HEART has mechatronics. You know what mechatronics is? Kind of-ish. You know, that's like the marriage of robotics with manufacturing. And in Jamaica, we're moving in that direction. So many of our manufacturing plants are now using robots. So we need to have technicians and engineers who understand how to use that. And so HEART is doing that. And so we have support programs at HEART for those who go in those areas. And so anyone, as long as you get to level 4, which is an associate degree at HEART in any of the STEM areas, we don't ask any questions, we just give you a check for $300,000. Just like that. Which government does that? None before this one, but this one definitely does that. And that's why we have to choose this government, right? We also have the tools for trade. So any of our trade program, you want to be an electrician, you want to be a plumber. By the way, electricians are in shortage. We have a shortage of electricians in Jamaica and all over the world. And they make good money. And so any of our trades, if you finish, if you get to level 4, we again give you $50,000 to buy your tools that you need in order to continue working in that trade. And if you're a ward of the state, so if you are living in one of our homes or you are a foster child, you get $75,000, no questions asked, as long as you finish the trade program for you to buy your tools. If you're a hairdresser, you get the check and you can go and buy whatever you need to start out life. If you're a plumber, you can buy some of your equipment. We ask no questions. That's how we are empowering our young people to go out. And they don't want to necessarily work for people. They want to be entrepreneurs. And so we have to equip them with the support so they can start on that entrepreneurial journey. And that's what Tools for Trade is. We also have the Graduate Work Experience Program. And this is where we place students around different entities, either in the private sector or the public sector, and we give them knowledge of the working world, and we then pay them a stipend. We always pay our young people when they go on apprenticeships at HEART. Everybody who's doing it, the apprenticeship elements, they get paid. I should also note that I should speak briefly about AI. I know this will put up the thing that says I'm over time. And I have a long list of things, but as I said, ask me questions so I can say them. AI is very important. This morning, today, I was in Trelawney with our teachers at a JTA conference, and they're discussing AI and how our teachers are going to be using AI in the classroom. It is real, and it is going to change so much of our lives and our jobs, and we need to be ready. And that's why in Jamaica, we launched an AI task force. And that was pushed first by Minister Morgan. And when I became a minister, he said, well, now you're here, just go and make it happen. And I did, and he did all the work before. So I just needed to just run with it and take the credit. But it was thanks to Minister Morgan. And so we had an AI task force, and we have an AI task force report on how we can incorporate AI into Jamaica. That's how forward-looking we are. But we don't just stop there and talk. I gave the AI task force 1 year to do their work. They took 13 months. They went over by 1 month. But you know in Jamaica, sometimes when you have task force, they go on for years upon years upon years upon years. We're not that kind of government. We don't have years to wait on a piece of paper. And so they delivered their report within 13 months, which spoke to how we can make Jamaica more of a leader in AI. And one of the first things we're going to be doing is an AI lab. I'm going to come to that. We also are one of the first countries in the world to have an AI policy in education. Because we are not afraid of AI. We want our students using it in the classroom, and we want our teachers using it in the classroom, but obviously using it responsibly. And so we have an AI policy, which is unheard of for most countries in the world, an AI policy in education. And so later this year, we're going further. We are going to be opening our first AI lab in Jamaica. That is huge, and it's going to be really big. But when I went to India last year, I went to a few AI labs and I saw what they did. And our AI lab is going to be much better than what I saw there. And so we are not thinking small. This administration doesn't think small. We think big. We have this big picture thinking, and our Prime Minister is as big a thinker as you can get. And so all of us have to fall in line with the big thinking. And so our AI lab is going to be state of the art. This is where we can solve a lot of problems. This is where you are going to get access to all those high-powered machines so that you can create tools that will help our country or whatever business you end up in. We're also, at heart, starting a prompt engineering course. And that's big, because in AI you need technicians. And prompt engineering is one of the fastest growing areas in the world. My advice to any of you is, if you have an opportunity to do that hard program in prompt engineering, that you do it. Because that is going to set you apart from everybody, and you can be hired anywhere in the world with that skill set. So please do not look at HEART as this place that is not for you. It actually has a lot of innovation going on. We're spending a lot of money on equipment, really high value equipment, because we don't feel that Jamaicans should get dibby things. We need to have the best technology that there is. So when you look at our virtual welding machines that we have, those are world class. When you look at our aerial robotics, which are the drones that we teach on at HEART, those are world class. We're not trying to just do a thing. We're doing it at first world standard. And so please tell your friends, tell your family members that there's a new HEART. A new HEART is there that is there to take you to that future. AI in schools. This is very important. One of the other things we're doing in order to equip our students so that when they come to UE, they're much more knowledgeable about AI and other things, and they're actually doing better. We recognize that some students have amazing teachers and amazing systems at their schools, but many do not have that. And as a government, we want to bridge the gap between the haves and the have-nots. And one of the ways we can do that, we truly believe, is through technology. And so one of the things we're launching again, and the PM would have spoken to it in his budget presentation, is the Jamaica Learning Assistant, where every child will have a little learning assistant in their pocket, which is AI enabled. We've trained it on the Jamaica syllabus, the curriculum, the Jamaica curriculum. And so you can talk to it. You can have a conversation with it. You're not understanding a topic at school, you can get stories told to you. You can get quizzes developed for you. It also speaks patois and understands patois. So we're not leaving anybody behind in what we are doing. Everybody is important, and we are going to take all of Jamaica with us to that land that we call prosperity. And so in order for the AI to work in the schools, you have to understand that we need infrastructure, right? So when I talk about Wi-Fi in schools, it's because I want to put the AI in schools. And the students can't use the AI tools if they don't have internet. And so that's a priority this year, is really getting Wi-Fi built up across the schools. So we've put Wi-Fi internet in like maybe over 600 schools. But it's not for the whole campus. So it's usually just the office that has the internet. But what we want is for the entire school campus to be able to have access to internet. And that's our focus for this year, so that we can reap the benefits of all the technology. I have a lot more here, but I'm not going to go into them, other than to just talk about a couple of scholarships. As you know, there are the healthcare workers scholarships, $2.5 billion over 5 years. So if any of your friends are in the health-related area, apply for those. It's a lot of scholarships. It's going to be about 200 every year. So that's one that's very good. Also, you have the STEM scholarships, which is geared at assisting over 2,000 students between UTech and MICO. We also have grants from the Student Loan Bureau for students who need grant assistance. So there is more in terms of housing and so on, but I won't get into it because I know we're at near to the end. My vision for education, our vision for education, is that no child leaves school illiterate. One of the things that pains me a lot is when I go to a school and I see the statistics and I see the performance in maths and English, and it is atrocious. I have been to schools where not one student got maths or English, passed maths or English. That's an indictment on all of us. We cannot continue like this. For the vision, the Jamaica we want, we need people to move with us in order to reap the benefits. And we can't do that with their educational outcomes that we're getting right now. And so we have to focus on numeracy and literacy. And I'm going to say it over and over and over again, that we have to focus on those things. And then we have to introduce the digital, because they have to understand technology, because this world is all about technology. And so as I close, without having gone through all of my items, I want to talk about Choose Jamaica. I never had any intention of coming into politics, like at all. That was not my world. But I saw some young people doing it, and they are on the stage. And they boldly said, yes, I'm going to do it. And as someone sitting on the outside, on the fringes, yes, I'd be on boards, but I wasn't deep in it. But I saw them do it, and I felt that I could do it too, and I should do it too. And I think Jamaica has given all of us in this room the best of what it has. It may not have been much for some of us, but it has given us the best. We are at UE because God chose us to be at UE. And with that comes responsibility. And I always say there is responsibility in it. And my grandmother used to tell me that. I grew up with my grandmother. And she was so happy when I came to UE. She couldn't care less what I studied, just that I went to university. Which was a good thing, because I changed my major and she didn't mind. But she always told me that we have a responsibility because we got what they never got. She never had a chance to go beyond high school. We are here now. In many of our families, we're the first, or we're one of the few who are here. When I was at this university, Jamaica looked different. There was no one in Ministry of Agriculture saying to young people, you can make a bag of money through agriculture. There was no one saying we can revolutionize infrastructure in our country and our road infrastructure. There was no one saying you all deserve water and I am going to deliver water to all of you. There is no one saying let me fix my social security apparatus so that we can reach every Jamaican. When I was at UE, there was just despair about Jamaica. I have lived to see Jamaica change significantly. And I came into this because I saw Andrew Holness and I saw his vision for Jamaica. And I saw these other young ministers working with him to deliver on that vision. And it is a vision that I truly believe will take Jamaica forward. And it is for that reason that I have chosen Jamaica. And I hope that all of you here will continue to choose Jamaica. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Minister Morris Dixon, our Minister of Education, Skills, Youth and Information. Wow, a whole lot of information there and opportunities coming out of the ministry. Of course, scholarship opportunities, and for persons, we know we're in the midst of exam season right now, and we know that many persons won't be able to sit their exams without clearing their fees, so there's an opportunity on the ministry's website in case you missed it. There's also a JAMVAT opportunity which covers up to $300,000 of your tuition. There's scholarships for teaching and engineering, so if anyone is in education, think about some employment with Heart or the Heart Trust NSTA rather. I believe everyone should have a skill, whatever that skill looks like, so please take advantage of that, and it's free to everyone. And as we heard, once you complete all levels, you'll actually be given a stipend. So it's now time for the questions, so I'll ask persons with questions to just line up by the microphone here. And again, it's a rare opportunity. We have 5 ministers here and a student leader who you can ask questions. You can ask questions at this time. No questions? Okay.
Good evening. I have 3 questions.
Give us one at a time.
Yes. The first one is thank you to everybody. Thank you, every minister. My first question is to Minister Samuda. Could you provide us with an update following the ICJ climate change hearing that Senator Kamina Johnson-Smith attended last year? Has there been any update on that as the Minister of Portfolio?
The hearing rather, or the rulings related to ICJ did basically say that human beings had particular rights in terms of the environmental protection. In terms of further updates, Jamaica's commitments under the Paris Agreement are being entrenched, they're being implemented in line with our own responsibilities. Our own responsibilities are clearly articulated in the NDCs, which I mentioned earlier, and we're proceeding apace. We actually, I think, should be publishing later this year our results in terms of our emissions cutting targets, which are being achieved through 220 megawatts of energy that we are procuring now from renewable energy, the 45 megawatts of floating solar that we'll be putting on the Luna Reservoir, and the decarbonization of our fleet. You note that we have moved to CNG buses instead of heavy fuel oil buses. Jamaica is honoring its responsibilities in relation to climate change. Jamaica is actually trying to mobilize far more finance on the adaptation side to be better able to manage the decisions being made by others.
And does that support the white paper in relation to us moving towards a green economy? Obviously, the EMS policy speaks to the forward-futuring movement of the green economy. Can you expound on the vision for that for Jamaica?
I don't know that I can expand in the sort of time frame that we have tonight, but what I would say is that the white paper tabled on our climate change policy, the emissions policy, the LTS, the stock take underway, the national adaptation plan, all of those elements are coming together to create a robust climate change strategy, and varying policy frameworks and strategies at varying stages. It would be very difficult to go into that sort of detail tonight.
Thank you. My next question, I won't be too long. Senator Dixon, thank you so much for your overview. It's an honour. A question I would like to ask is, you speak a lot about the external training that is available for everybody that wants to participate. Is there any internal training that is being devised for the government of Jamaica to support your vision of ensuring that ministers, leaders are able to be trained and developed so that everybody can compete at global level in terms of best practice?
Wow, that is a very good question. And that's why we have MIND, And mind is supposed to be doing that work, but we're not just leaving it to mind alone. And so when I spoke about prompt engineering, one of the key persons we're targeting are the public sector workers, because we believe that we have to get our public sector to a level of efficiency that we don't necessarily see. And a part of our strategy going forward is about speed, and you would have heard of speed. And that is removing bureaucracy and making things move more quickly. And the first one was in relation to our fitness for cars. It was a simple thing, you know, just saying if you have a new car, new, nobody ever drove it, and you have to go do fitness every year. I mean, it just didn't make any sense. It needed an Andrew Holness administration to say that made no sense. And let's just fix that. And so there are many more that we need to fix, but we also know we can use AI and other tools in order to fix things. And so as a part of the entire digital transformation of the government, there are programs, especially we have one through IDB, that's going to be specifically based with our public sector workers to help them to understand the digital transformation. And then we're also doing AI training across the board.
Amazing, thank you. And then my last question is to every minister. We are all aware of the road to republic, and we also understand that Jamaica is preparing to go through a brand nation transformation, which looks at how to position Jamaica globally for trade, competitiveness, and for the future of what every portfolio is required to administer at global level. Is there a high-level overview of how every ministry is contributing to the brand nation storytelling of Jamaica, and how that is being positioned in terms of climate change, sustainability, education, agriculture, with the current trade wars that we're dealing with at the moment, and works?
I guess I'll go first. I'll start with the concept of branding. So the branding of Jamaica is not about external. And the Prime Minister in 2018 came up with the idea that we needed to brand Jamaica. And we needed to do research as to what the brand Jamaica is, what does Jamaica represent. It wasn't about outward looking in, it was about us identifying what our common attributes are that binds us together, that we will project to the world. Is it sports? Is it music? Is it food? Is it our personal interaction with each other? Is it a combination of all of them? And we did a study, and it gave us some very insightful things. One of the things that it spoke to us about is the what you call the need for integration in government systems to drive economic growth, to empower Jamaicans to manifest their best selves.
Is this are you referring to the Bloom Consulting research that's been undertaken, just for clarification? So
there have been several Bloom researches. One was done before 2020, and there's another one that was done after 2020. I'm speaking about a combination of some of what I read from it. And part of it is about empowering Jamaicans to be their best. Economic growth and job creation, and our plan, our ethos, as part of our efforts to build a strong Jamaica, which will contribute to our brand Jamaica, is to build resilient, strong infrastructure for the benefit of the people, to increase economic growth, to increase the ability of persons to do commerce, to empower communities, to spend less, for example, on the transportation of goods and to access services. So from my side as the Ministry of Works, that is how we are contributing to the brand in a very indirect but palpable way.
Yeah. So I'll just say, and clearly we need a public engagement about this. So clearly at a high level, the Prime Minister leads that charge of trying to ensure that we all are participating in that bigger vision. The formation of the Ministry of Legal and Constitutional Affairs was to drive the road to republic, and has been driving the road to republic, and to do something that should have been done a long time, like enshrined in our symbols and our emblems and things that are associated with us as a nation. At the coordination level, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs does do a very good job of ensuring that in each of our international fora, in each of our representations, that we are singing from the same hymn sheet. Sometimes it sounds easy, but as you would be aware, it's not necessarily very easy. Part of what the Prime Minister has been trying to do is to break down barriers. It's not by chance that we're all here. I mean, governments of the past, everybody would try to do their own engagement. But the Prime Minister consistently says that, it's one government, right? So there are a lot of climate change matters that are fully agriculture based. And Matthew is at that table, right? But he has to be aware of what I am dealing with so he can make those representations. So I would say at a high level, we are doing a lot better at coordination. We are doing a lot better of doing Jamaica as an entity. And on a national level, we had hoped that the opposition would have walked the pathway with us and that we would have by now at least taken phase 1 of our Republic journey. We were very clear that we were going to do it in phases and that this is what phase 1 would entail. And we stuck to that. And we had meetings, we had engagement, we brought in overseas consultants, and then when it appeared that we weren't there, the opposition took up their marbles and left. It's unfortunate. So we're not daunted. I think the best way to ensure that we become a republic is genuinely to choose Jamaica in the next election.
Thank you, Minister. We'll take a final response from Minister Sulu.
Just to support that point, Floyd, I think the journey towards the republic furthers a very complex DNA that we have tried to entrench as it relates to Brand Jamaica. So whereas MIIC, the Ministry of Industry and Commerce, would have done a lot of the research in terms of where the brand is now and where we want to take it and what the pillars are of the future evolution of Brand Jamaica, the Republic component of that we believe was very central to what we want Brand Jamaica to be, which is, yes, social and personal and genuine independence and our own head of state, etc. But the other component of it, which I think has been coming through long before we introduced the Republic conversation, was the fact that we were seeking our economic independence. And I think that has been central to our message from before we formed government, and I think has become entrenched and is now a part of the brand DNA of Jamaica, which that economic independence has come from very good fiscal management. We brought it down significantly. But it has also come through the work that we've done in building the capacity of Jamaica to fend for itself. So we're building in water and roads and housing and sea revetments that were contemplated 20 years ago. But you're also revolutionizing agriculture and education and the way you do you manage your labor markets. And that economic independence is a critical pillar of Brand Jamaica under Jamaica, the Republic, which will come, and it's unfortunate it's been delayed. But those components all would be encapsulated in the research that you mentioned, as well as others that you wouldn't have mentioned. And I think those pillars in the brand DNA of Jamaica 2.0 will show through significantly in our manifesto, will show through significantly in our conversations, and will definitely come to life in the next term of government.
All right, thank you so much, Ministers. Thank you. All right, so we have quite a number of questions, or persons in the line rather, so we ask that you keep the questions short and tight, please, and keep them to a minimum of 2. Thank you.
Thank you. I have 2 questions. Good night, everyone. All right, so my first question is to Minister Dixon. What additional steps is the government of Jamaica taking to better support neurodiverse children, particularly in early diagnosis, access to specialized education and caregiver support? I know, Minister, that quite a bit of work has been done, but some students and families still suffer from targeted support, etc. So I want to know if there's any additional programs that's coming up, not just for primary school children, but high school and tertiary as well.
All right, let me answer that. That's an excellent question. And as we all know, the statistics show that the number of neurodivergent children is on the rise. So those on the spectrum, it is increasing. And so it is something that we have to prepare for. And sadly, we don't have the cadre of professionals in Jamaica. And I say this as a parent of a child who's on the spectrum. And I have struggled, too, to get support in Jamaica. Speech therapists, you go on a list for years. And so we said to UE, we're giving you $12 billion a year. What are you doing for us? This is an area we need people. And so UE is going to be launching a speech therapy program here so that we can have more speech therapists. So please get involved in that, and we're at the ministry looking at scholarships for those because those are important. What we're also having an issue with is diagnostics. The wait list is very long, and even when you get to do your session, it takes months to get back the results. So that's a problem. We have a new diagnostic center, and if you look in the big yellow book of the budget, there's $180 million in there for a new diagnostic center in Portland. Because too often people have to come from the country into Kingston to get access to those services. And so this year we're building out that diagnostic center in Portland. We're also trying to identify special needs earlier in our schools. So one of the initiatives we did last year was after the grade 5 PEP test, was to go through it and see all of the lower performing students, and we identified 2,000 of them. And every single one of them was assessed by UE. UE assessed all of them. And gave a plan of action to the school to see how we can better support them. So there are initiatives, we need more. We've actually we've doubled the salary, I think, not doubled, we've increased the salary for our shadows by 50%, which was very, very important. Very important. And we also added additional shadows because so many of our children with special needs need that support. We're going to continue doing that and trying to improve on our support to parents. But there's a lot of work to be done. I'm very seized of it, and it's work we have to do because these children are as much a part of our society as anybody else, and we have to take care of them and unleash the potential all of them have. And that's a priority of us, and me too, personally.
Thank you very much, Minister.
Just to tell, at the Ministry of Labour, we have an early stimulation program. And focus is also on children with disability under 6 years old. And we are also going to be contributing to the process of identifying the skill set that is required and giving our support to ensuring that there is as much support in terms of whether it is scholarships, grants, internship opportunities for the right skills and for us to be trained to be able to deal with the issues that we have in terms of development in that area. Additionally, we're expanding ESP outside of just Kingston, and we're looking on ensuring that we have satellite offices to start, but to make allocations over time so that the support for parents or children with disability is not just centralized in the capital, but that it goes out and spreads to the rural communities as well.
Thank you. And then my final question is for Minister Green. Minister, recently I had the opportunity to observe a USDA-funded greenhouse project trialing sorrel cultivation using vertical tower systems. Given Jamaica's cultural and economic value to Jamaica, given sorrel's cultural and economic value to Jamaica, especially its export potential, is this something the ministry is considering? I know obviously there's a lot of emphasis being placed on innovative growing methods, but specifically to boost local production and support growth for sorrel. Thank you.
Yes, so thank you. Sorrel is one of those things that is in high demand. It's high demand right around the year. There used to be a time that sorrel was only, Christmas time, but nowadays, the demand that we're seeing for sorrel, we are driving those innovative growth strategies, and not just for sorrel. Part of what we're embarking on and embracing more and more in the ministry is how can we use modern technology? How can we do more vertical farming? How can we do more protected agriculture, tower farms, aquaponics, right across the board? And that's why we're trying to build our research capacity. One of the things that we just did in relation to sorrel was to purchase machines made by a local entrepreneur to help in the picking process of soil and the seed removal process of soil. So we are significantly focused. Part of what we're doing with JBI, I see some of the JBI team here, is to build out our greenhouse clusters around the country on former mining lands, and again, looking at some of these items that can be grown well in protected agriculture. So we're working on it.
Thank you, and thanks for those questions. Feel free to identify yourselves as well when you ask your questions. Go ahead.
Good night. I am Nikania Brown. I am the External Affairs Chairperson-elect on the Guild for the upcoming academic year. So I have two questions, and they're in relation to UWI. So the first one is for the Minister of Labour and Social Security. Minister, as a part of my manifesto as the EAC, I'm working to revive the Best Self Conference. And this is a developmental platform for students to showcase their businesses, network with professionals, and attend panel discussions on purpose-driven leadership. Would the Ministry of Labour and Social Security consider committing to partnering and sponsoring this initiative to help empower youth through entrepreneurship and career development here at the University of the West?
I don't think we have a choice. But just to say, I think that's awesome. That's a part of the vision. It's exactly what we're talking about in terms of collaboration, purposeful partnership. And yes, I'm looking forward to sitting down with you, discussing in details what the plans are, and seeing how we can partner to ensure that it is a great success.
Okay, thank you, and I will hold you to your word. Thank you so much. And my last question, this is for the Minister of Education. So, Minister, another point on the manifesto is you were on the road, and seen as though you're focused on, increasing the literacy rates, financial literacy, so on. I feel like you have access to the university campus and you would be great ambassadors for this. So, we aim to serve as student ambassadors visiting high schools, especially in underserved communities, to promote financial literacy, etc. Our goal is to bridge the gap for underprivileged youth and show them that university is within reach. Would the ministry be willing to support and collaborate with us on this initiative and help make a greater impact island-wide?
Without doubt, you have my support. And we're going to work with you. I love your boldness.
Yes.
I really do like it. And so I cannot tell you no, because what you're doing is really important, and it's aligned with what I'm doing. I'm doing a lot of school tours, and I'm going to trying to as best as possible not go to the traditional schools that everybody goes to.
Right.
And so we can definitely partner.
Okay, thank you so much for that, and I appreciate the two commitments. I look forward to working with you.
Thank you, and don't forget to send your proposal early. Play your part, yes, thank you.
So, good night, especially to Minister Green and Minister Colonel Charles. Big up Dynamite. But still, I have a question as former Guild Councillor specifically. I had heard from my SSDM back in the time, in early 2000s, especially with Guild presidents like Nathan Campbell. There was, what I said, Guild protests were active, as he would say. Stuff like locking the bursary in her office till she had lower tuition. Is that true? Like, just want to confirm the story. He said, no, Damian Crawford, I mean. Because I have the next question after that.
I asked my son a question he doesn't want to answer. He says, I will not deny or confirm. No, so Guild protests were very active during the time that we were on campus. A lot of them were around fees. There was a very big protest when Amion was president. And there are different versions of what happened in relation to the person. The official version is that there was no locking up anybody, right? That's the official version. But at that time, in real terms, students did take the campus to task when they felt like the campus was not taking into account their views on a number of initiatives. And just to say, the time that I spent at UA, there was some evolution of that. And guild presidents now do have a greater voice if they use it, right? At that time as well, the government honestly was very standoffish, not as engaging with the students. So we felt that the only way to get the attention at that time was to, protest. So I think what, as a sitting government now, what you hope for is that you create a pathway of communication so that if the students have a problem, the guild president knows he can reach out to the minister. You hear the minister say, "You are my advisor." We never had that. We never had that at all. Right? Ministers were over there, and we there over here. And we are watching them and we are saying, wow. So, to where we are saying. So, yeah. So it was a different time, and we have changed for the better.
So, my next question. Also, my name is Stanford Loon, so by the name.
Final question, please.
Yeah, I have a final question still. But, on the question of protectionism towards Jamaican agricultural products, do you think in the long term it has benefited the economy while being potentially damaging towards consumers? Or do you think overall it's been beneficial for consumers?
Yes, so it's a very good question because it's always about a balancing act, right? And you are never able just to look at it from the consumer perspective, right? Because when I started, I indicated how much agriculture does in terms of employment. So, for example, we do provide space for agricultural enterprises to grow, and we've done that with poultry, right? And because of that now, we are self-sufficient in poultry, and we're self-sufficient in eggs up until Hurricane Beryl, and we'll get back there. But outside of the self-sufficiency, we also have a huge industry that is made up of small farmers who are sending their children to school, who are taking care of their families through backyard chicken houses, right? Now, if you never had the space for the growth, then your agricultural sector could be overrun by countries that provide significant direct subsidies to their agricultural enterprise. So it's always a balancing act. What we do at the Ministry of Agriculture is to, one, prioritize local production, but two, we don't believe that we can produce everything. We're an island, there are some things that we won't be able to produce feasibly, so we allow for those things to be accessible, and then we also supplement a lack of local production by accessibility. So it's a balancing act. I think in most things we have gotten it right, but there are some areas that we can do some more work.
All right, thank you, Minister. At this time, we'll be closing the line, so the gentleman in the pink, you're the final one to ask questions in the interest of time.
Good evening. I am Geoffrey Crossman. Minister Dana Marsh-Dixon, this question is for you. I want to know, seeing that all of us, well, most of us right here were young people, so what is the government plan to make owning a home accessible to university graduates?
Hey, that's a very good question because that's what, everybody wants, to own their own home and do it as quickly as possible. And so there are many different things we're doing in government. The NHT, I know a lot of young people don't know this, that we set aside houses for young people. So at least 10% of all houses built by the NHT must go to young people under 35. So that's one way we've done it. And I saw earlier today some stats. There was one in St. James, a recent development in St. James, Estuary 2. 21% of those houses went to people under 35. So young people benefited from it. And also, there was another one where we saw 13% reserved, and that's in Union Acres, also in St. James. 13% of those units went to people under 35. So don't feel that it's too early for you to go to NHT, because NHT has to deliver houses to those who are under 35. And also, we have the loan ceiling. The loan ceiling has changed. And so I say to young people, I think the house more valuable than the car. Try to get the house because we've increased it to $9 million each. And you can join with someone and get a house it is very important that loan ceiling increasing, which makes it easier for you. And as I used to be in the financial world, in the mortgage world, you can get up to 100% mortgage. I don't usually recommend it, but don't feel that you have to wait. We have this concession from the NHT, and you can go on the open market and get it. In addition to that, the Prime Minister has said he wants to spend more, he wants the NHT to build more units under $14 million, which are starter homes, which is what young people want. And he has said no NHT development must come in higher than that. That's a big deal. In addition to that, last year he announced the starter home buyback, where NHT will sell a one-bedroom unit, which is a starter home. And the problem is young people didn't want to take that because once you used your NHT benefit, you couldn't use it again. But we changed that rule, so if you take one of those small units, at the end of a few years, you can sell it and still get your full NHT benefit. These are really important changes that we've made in order to support you on the road to home ownership. And as you see all over Jamaica, construction going on. I didn't mention a construction scholarships from NHT, up to $1 million if you're studying in an area related to construction. So that's another thing too that we're doing in terms of scholarships.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for your question.
Good evening. My question is towards the Minister Lena Morris Dixon. You spoke vividly on the STEM program and the promotion of it. So my question would be, what initiatives are being implemented to create more job opportunities, especially in those upcoming or those further sectors?
Thank you, and that's a good question. The STEM area is critical. We're not, as government, we believe we must create an enabling environment for businesses to flourish. And so that's why, with our programs at Heart, for example, we give grants to you as you finish the program so you can start your own business. We also have JVC. We also have many different parts of the government that's willing to support you in your entrepreneurial endeavors in these areas. And that's really important to us. The DBJ in particular, the Development Bank of Jamaica, has a lot of funding for businesses who are in the early stages and that are innovative. And so we're doing that in terms of loans, but we also have grants that we're giving throughout many different parts of government to support those areas. But of course, it starts with having the talent in those areas. So we have to train people in those areas and train them well so they can start their own businesses. My dream is to see Jamaica be the AI center of the Caribbean, where we have lots of young people doing businesses here in Jamaica, solving the problems of the region and the world. I will say I think it can happen. I went to an AI hackathon here at UNI last year, and they were solving the problems of government using AI. And they never had an AI lab. They never had lots of fancy equipment. They didn't have the AV equipment, but they were doing it really well. And so if we give them the AI lab, and we give them more resources, can you imagine what our young people are going to be able to create for this world? So that's my goal, to try to work towards bringing more of the training to our young people so they can go and start the businesses we need.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, Knight, this question is, to be fair, anybody can answer the question, but it's specifically for the Minister of Education. Even though having no guarantor will open up access to give more opportunities to younger individuals to go to university, right? Being that we're hearing stuff about Jamaica being in a recession, being that the United States put 10% tariff on Jamaica, and still don't know if we're feeling the effects of the tariff as yet. And a whole lot of stuff going on, right? Wouldn't the better thing to do, and don't get me wrong, having guarantors is good, right? And numerous amount of scholarship, as I said, that they're there, right? Yeah, that's good. But wouldn't having the university not constantly increasing the school fee be a better option?
All right, that's a good question. We've seen inflation. We all see it. When you go over to, I saw some KFC in the back that was distracting me and made me want some KFC too. But you see the price of KFC going up. You see the price of everything going up. It is costing more to do everything. And it's a reality, and it's a global reality. And universities are facing that around the world. But it is important that the fees be put at a level where people can access education. That is critical, because what's the point of having a university if no one can afford to go to it, right? So we urge restraint on the part of the university. We do support the university a lot. I told you we give the university 13 billion, that's the minimum, but we tend to give more than that each year because they come back for supplemental support, and we usually give it. So it's a lot of money. It's a lot of money that we're giving, and we ask for restraint. But I heard in your question concern about where the world is going. And it is hard. It's a hard time now, and as university students, I want you to be thinking about how Jamaica positions itself during this period. There are opportunities in this rebalancing of the world. Opportunities for Jamaica. There are opportunities in logistics. Where we are is perfect for logistics. And we need to do it.
What you said right here is a perfect segue to my second question. So is there, I don't know who specific, Minister of Agriculture, is there any talks or any plans on diversifying our trade relationships, specifically trading with places like Mexico, Canada, maybe trading with the EU or China?
Yeah, man. So, very, very good question. The answer is yes. We have actually tried to be a lot more proactive in looking at various trading partners. Clearly, the USA is our main trading partner, but we do trade with EU. We have recognized over the years that we can do more in the Caribbean region, right? And as such, we have been actively working through our initiative to reduce extra-regional imports by 25%. We've been working to tear down some of the barriers. Unfortunately, you still have barriers around standards, you still have phytosanitary barriers, but we've made some inroads. So we've made some inroads in Cayman, we've made some inroads in Trinidad, we've made some inroads in Barbados. We are now sending containers. They're small markets, but as you said, diversification. So we are now looking at Latin America, and how can we do more with Latin America? So in fact, we've done a couple of things. We recognize that if we're going to have a strong export focus, we have to ensure that our farmers, our producers know the requirements across the various countries. So we've actually launched a trade and information portal that we launched a few weeks ago, that if you are trying to get into Mexico, you can go on there, we can take you step by step. What's the process that you have to go through? So we've tried to pull all of the ministry's information around export markets, our various trade arrangements, which we have a number that are underutilized, right? And we're putting that to one space so our exporters can know what to do. Additionally, we're taking that on the road because, again, they have to be able to meet the standards that are being requested in these countries. Again, EU, depending on what we're exporting, they will have different phytosanitary standards. And we need to ensure that we have the wherewithal to meet those standards. So the issue is
probably export more rum and then things into Canada.
So
I'm hearing some news on that.
no, well, what you have said is the crux, which is in all uncertainty there is opportunity. We are going to take full advantage of the opportunity. Minister Sabuda said something about what's now in our DNA as a country, Jamaica. And now we boast about economic independence. So for example, when we look at what is happening in the world, we believe that like our spices are becoming more competitive. Ginger, turmeric, we have the best ginger in the world, we have the best turmeric in the world. pimento, all of those used to be sourced further afield. Now we're saying we will produce for those markets that are closer to us. So we have a $20 billion US project around developing our spices for that. Canada, you said it, great opportunities. So yes, there are opportunities, and yes, we are looking to take advantage of those opportunities.
All right, thank you so much. I should have 2 questions left. I see a strange guy in the back. Hello. I'll allow you to ask one short question because I closed my mind at Mr. Pink shirt. All right? Thank you.
Right.
Go ahead.
Good evening, everybody. Ministers, let me first thank you for being here and making yourself available to hear our concerns and answer these questions. I am Nashay Baker of the Caribbean Maritime University and president of our local G2K. With that said, with the Caribbean Maritime University being the premier tertiary institution for maritime education, training, research, and consultancy in the Western Hemisphere, and the new high demand for students, both internationally, regionally, and nationally, in both the private and public sector, and with CMU having some of the highest tuitions in the country, what is being done to make it cheaper to study at CMU to enable us to meet the demands? And will the salaries of the upcoming job opportunities be competitive enough for us to actually choose Jamaica?
Very good question. Why do we choose Jamaica? We all want different things, right? But most of us want to be able to own a home, to be able to live in safety, and you want to be able to have, general opportunities. And that's what we are about as government. A lot of people left Jamaica because they felt unsafe. The kinds of reductions we've seen in crime are a big deal, and we should not look at them lightly. We've been seeing crime go up for years. This is the first time in my lifetime, and I am 45 years old, that I have heard of crime coming down significantly. That's a big deal. That changes the entire calculus about staying in Jamaica. But then, there are the opportunities. There are a lot of opportunities that are coming, especially in your area, from the changes in geopolitics. Jamaica is primed to benefit. If you had listened to the press conference with the Secretary of State of the US when he came to Jamaica, you would hear it. Even he sees it. Our port is valuable. We can do a lot of more transshipment through our port. We can also do a lot of light manufacturing through our port. What you are doing, what you're studying in logistics, is perfect for where Jamaica has to position itself. But don't always look at the government. I want you to tell me what business you're going to start. Which conglomerate are you going to establish that's going to have businesses here, there, and everywhere? And that's the kind of thinking I want you to have. Not what is the government going to do, but what am I going to do? What business opportunities are there that I can tap into? And of course, the fee issue is a problem. And we've heard it, we've seen it. We obviously have to look at more scholarships that can be done. We work with the administration and meet periodically with the leadership of the school. And that is something that, given your concerns and other concerns I've heard, that I will continue to advocate for when my meetings with the leadership. But you are in an excellent position. Excellent position in being at CMU. You're going to make enough money. Look at the UE students and tell them to chose wrong.
All right, thank you.
All right, thank you as well.
Hello everyone, good afternoon. So, my name is Shamar Bell and I have 2 questions. One is towards Mr. Samuda and another one is towards Mr. Charles. The first question I want to ask Mr. Samuda, the University of the West Indies has suffered with a shortage of water. And whenever we inform the university about the situation that we're in, we normally get advice letter from them and they will tell us when the situation can be fixed. However, Mr. Samuda, I want to know, how can you help us to alleviate this situation that the university students are facing?
So it's an excellent question, but directed at the wrong person. And it's directed at the wrong person because I believe in 2018, the University of the West Indies applied to the OUR for its own license to set up its own water system. So the University of the West Indies extracts, produces, stores and distributes its own water and is not supplied by the National Water Commission or by any arm of the government. It has its own license. It was a part of cost-cutting initiatives to keep financial sustainability within the university. So the entity or the partnership that the University of West Indies had, whichever private supplier, is outside of the government's remit. What I can tell you is that when the university has challenges with water supply, with security, with energy issues, as it has also tried to come off the grid in some way, shape or form, it gets significant support from the government. So even post-burial and other spaces, the government stepped in to provide assistance. So the government steps in when the situation is chronic, but the decision, I think, will be better directed at the university administration. Should the university decide to come back on the utility footprint of the government, we would welcome them, and we welcome the additional revenue.
Okay, thank you. The next question, final question, Mr. Charles. I've been doing a lot of some investigation on the unemployment insurance scheme. And so I would like for you to expound on it and how this scheme can benefit Jamaicans.
Thank you. Good question. I hope you're not intending to be unemployed.
No, sir.
The unemployment insurance is for that rainy season. If it does happen, even if it's not intended. And so the government, for the first time ever, groundbreaking, game-changing, has further to a feasibility study looked on the different designs of what unemployment insurance could be in Jamaica, which is intended to provide support for those persons who are actively working for an involuntary reason, lose their job, and need that support during the transition period. And so we're now at the stage where Cabinet has given approval for us at the Ministry of Labour and Social Security to further the implementation of this insurance as a benefit to the workers in Jamaica. And we are moving steadily ahead to ensure that whatever we implement in Jamaica will be a well-valued, worthwhile addition to the national insurance scheme, which is that framework that we have here to provide support for workers, pension, and other forms of support. So the unemployment insurance is another addition to the benefits available to Jamaican workers from the government to make sure that we can protect you when you need it the most and strengthen this nation's social security framework. It is new, it's different, but I think it's going to be a very significant part of the sustainable development, not just growth, but sustainable development for Jamaica as we have lower unemployment, which will need us to have more productivity and greater resilience.
All right, thank you.
All right, thank you. Can we get a round of applause for all the persons who asked questions, please? And a lot of pertinent issues came up, and there's one issue we'll ask Minister Samida just to touch a little bit more on the housing matter.
Oh, there was a question earlier about housing access, and I thought we had to reflect firstly to establish where there's credibility in answering the question and where there's credibility in commitments. In 2015, there was a report from the Auditor General that said there were $2 billion of investments made by the NHD under the former administration in Harmonization Limited, in Central Sewage Wastewater, and in an artisan village space. There was also the Outer Many investment. So around $2 billion invested by the NHD that yielded no results for the NHD, then not able to invest in additional housing stock. Similarly, the Housing Agency of Jamaica was functionally bankrupt at this stage and was on the brink of shutdown because it was poorly run. At that time, the government's housing interventions for the previous 4 years was about 5,000 units. Fast forward to 2019, government had turned around financial loss at HAJ and actually turned it to profit, where it's able to invest in low-income solutions for Jamaicans regardless of walk of life, age and stage. Looking at the numbers, in 2019, even before this current discussion, this government was producing 5,000 housing solutions a year, more than what was being produced by the previous government for 4 years in that period. You're now at the stage where at any one point, you have over 18 to 21,000, depending on which part in construction cycle you are, houses in development at any one point, with government funding or directly being done by the government. So the government is correcting the market anomaly, or rather the market factor, where supply is far too limited and demand is far too great, which is what sends up the prices, basic economics, by making several interventions. These interventions, I've heard people call for some of the things we're already doing, include developer loans. It includes guaranteed purchases from the NHT from private developers that they then sell at cheaper prices to provide space. It does include some land investments where the land is provided for those who cannot afford that to bring down the costs. And it does include, most importantly, a significant block, as Minister Dana Dixon said, of houses which are reserved for young persons. That is already taking place. But the critical point I want you to understand is that in 2020, the opposition said that we provide 100,000 houses in 5 years, not acknowledging that the country did not produce or even have the import facilities to bring in enough cement that would allow for 100,000 homes to be produced. And this was the same opposition that could only build about approximately 5,000 houses in their previous 4 years at that period. So you're going to hear, as I said, a lot of things in promising season. The numbers are not on the side of those promises. Our deployment and development of housing is far greater than has happened any time in my lifetime. But there are several things that we're doing, and some that we'll unveil in short order, that will move us from about 20,000 in every 18-month cycle to significantly greater, which will solve the supply issues, which will bring down costs, and we'll continue to make particular market interventions to ensure young people benefit. We already make interventions so that there's in every NHT scheme allocations for the disabled. Make sure that in every scheme there's allocations for teachers, etc. So we're trying to ensure that the supply issues are being solved on all of society's standpoint. But we do have the credibility in way more than anyone else has, certainly in my lifetime. And I think it has to be understood that every time they get control of the housing funds, they're squandered. Operation Pride, go have some fun reading that one on the weekend, don't disrupt your studies. But don't have any illusion that every time they get control of the housing funds, they're squandered, there are less houses built, and the issues then perpetuate. Thank you.
Thank you.
So, it is not really a question from me, but I sat and I reflected, and I recalled some of the comments that I got from my students when I asked them about some of the matters that I need to raise. And I will just end by saying that choosing Jamaica means that we must choose young people. Choosing young people means that we must choose education. I think that there has been a shift in education. Gone are the days, and Minister Green, when you answered the question, those times people were protesting because they were facing tuition increases. In terms of housing, that was not much of a deal at that time. But I want to say that now the system has evolved, has changed. And so now housing is a major part of accessing education. And so, Minister, we appreciate the advocacy in relation to the Students' Loan Bureau and the improvements that we expect. However, we still have to be aware that there's a lot more to be done. And it is not just with the university operated halls of residence. As we're aware that there are student living providers now. And when I look in my little cursory research, I see places like in the UK, they have moved forward. Some of them have legislation to regulate student housing. Some of them have tougher ways in which they can limit rent rates for students. They can create and regulate the services that are offered, and to ensure that these student accommodation places are safe and so on. So as a pointer, of course, I've been appointed now as your advisor, so I will be following up. But as a pointer, I want to say that the government must move to that era where we create and regulate student housing.
Thank you. Wow, I believe, is a wonderful note to end on. Ladies and gentlemen, this was the Choose Jamaica Forum, securing your future Jamaica. And again, it's a call to action for each of you to play your part in choosing Jamaica. You heard from our ministers and our guild president on the different issues that affect young people and affect us as Jamaicans. So it's our time to choose Jamaica, choose progress over promises, and choose a brighter future for Jamaica. Ladies and gentlemen, have a wonderful evening. My name is Brittany Clark. I was your moderator for this session. And thank you. And of course, there's an opportunity to mingle and interact after, but of course, all the best on your studies. I know it's exam time, so please do not stay out too late. Don't take up with the book, but have a wonderful evening and safe travels for those leaving. Thank you.